I'll never do it.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
Hello, you're with Karen, accentuating the positive. I'm here with Natalie Sudman, who I've spoken to on radio before, Accentuate the Positive Radio before, and we've talked about her amazing book, The Application of Impossible Things, which I read a while ago, and I just loved it. And we'll just give you a brief reminder of what we talked about. So Natalie was working in Iraq. Do you want to do a quick one, or do you want me to say it?
Oh, go ahead. It doesn't matter to me if you want me to.
Working as an archaeologist and working in Iraq as a civilian for the army, and you were blown up by a roadside bomb. Mm-hmm. And in that moment of the explosion, you had this incredible NDE, near-death experience, where you experienced yourself 1 minute in the body, the next minute in a non-physical environment surrounded by beings of light, and you were downloading information, telling them about your life, and they were uploading information to you, and you called that environment the blink environment. Am I getting this right? Mm-hmm. and amazing. So Natalie was gone for about a couple of seconds on the physical plane, but the experiences that you had on the other side or in the non-physical environment were like years. Would it be like years? It's hard to say because there's no time in that environment, so it's hard to sort of gauge time. But a lot went on in that experience, where you got to do a life review like most people do. You got to hang out with your guides. You had a rest environment. You were sort of resting after a busy physical existence. You said to your mob, "I don't want to go back."
Oh, I basically said, I'm not going to go back.
I'm not going back. Which I have to say, having looked at a lot of near-death experiences in my time, pretty much everybody says that. Like everyone that finds themselves in that non-physical environment realizes that they've come home and they're in this place of complete comfort and beauty and just like, I'm home. And they all say, oh my God, thank God I'm back. And they say, I'm not going back. And most people say that they have some instruction from a guide or a relative or Jesus or whatever experience they're having, deity that they come across on the other side that says, it's not your time. You didn't actually experience that though, did you?
No, I decided for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't anybody ordering me around or anything
yeah.
other than myself.
Yeah. I think that probably happens with everybody, but, you know, interpreting what you experienced in non-physical into a physical, into language and into a physical interpretation is not always easy. And I think that a lot of the people who say they were ordered back or they were said it's not your time, I think that was a decision that they make themselves. But when they're interpreting that, they feel like it was something that was made outside of them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Our physical world mind, that physical world personality is, in my experience, is not our whole self. And so when you leave the physical quickly or maybe even slowly, it may take some time for that physical mind personality to kind of let go, because it's a concentration. And the same way that, you know, if you hold your hand in a fist for a long time and then try to open your hand, it's going to be, hard to move those muscles that way.
Yeah.
And so when we hold our concentration in this physical or personality, when we leave the body, it can take a little time to let go of that concentration, I think. So I think that from this physical world mind, it may look like something outside of ourselves is telling us to do something, but I suspect that it's really ourselves telling ourselves what to do.
But you say
I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, you say in the book, you know, when you merge back to the God source, that we are all one, that there is no one outside of us anyway. So who we...
Yeah, on that level, you know, if you go enough out, we are all one. And so there is no other telling us to do anything. It's all one,
Which is kind of, it's kind of explosive to think about that from this perspective, because from this physical perspective, we seem so separate, you know, like there's you and your clump called your body, and there's me and my clump called my body, and there's like space and separateness between us. But from my understanding, you know, my guides tell me that that space in between us is filled with energy and information, and that is what connects us. That is what makes us the one. Because we can't perceive it with our eyes or ears or physical senses, you know, this energy around us is full of dimensions, is full of different realities, is full of, even on a physical level, it's full of radio waves, computer, internet, it's, you know, mobile phone waves. It's just filled with energy and information. Yeah. So the part between you and I that connects us is that energy and information that we perceive as empty space.
And it's all part of one. It's all different aspects of a single beingness, I guess, you know. There isn't any difference in that.
Yeah. I've been reading a blog called Channeling Eric lately, and there's a whole lot of YouTube clips too. If people listening to this on YouTube, you can Google it. And Eric was a young man that died at about 4 or 5 years ago at 20, and he's now a guide, and he's talking through a medium to his mother, who's asking a whole heap of questions about life on the other side and who we are and what happens. But what I find interesting is that Eric is retaining his personality, and you touched on that before. This is a question that I have, and I think a lot of people will have. When we transition, when we leave this physical experience, as you say, we leave behind an identity of who we are that was our physical self. What does it look like to sort of re-emerge back to the oneness, the wholeness of who we are, the completeness? Do we retain our specific personalities, or are we completely different? What did you experience when you were there?
In my experience, you're just more yourself. It's not that you leave behind this personality and you take on another personality or something. Okay. It's like you sink even farther into yourself so that you feel even more like yourself.
Okay.
Not less like, or leaving something behind. So, you know, are we the same personality? Well, we're the same personality, but even more.
Mm. So if people were to imagine themselves not identified with their culture, their sexual orientation, their body, but imagine the thinker, the person who thinks the thought, the one who is curious, who is passionate, would that be the person that you are when you leave behind this identity?
Sure. That's maybe the closest that we can get. I mean, I think a lot of people do actually experience the part of themselves that is aware of being in a body, or the person who is thinking the thoughts. Who is this that's thinking the thoughts? And I think there are people who can really let go of everything else and totally identify with that being. And that being it's infinite. It's timeless, it's spaceless, it's infinite, and its identity, it doesn't belong to, or it doesn't require anything outside itself. And its joy doesn't require anything outside of itself. It's not dependent upon anything else. It's not... you listed, you know, what is your name? What country are you from? What sex are you? That kind of thing. And this is all beyond that. But I think for a lot of people, that's kind of a hard, you know, it's a hard awareness to find. But it really is a memory. I mean, we all have it. It's just remembering that we already are that. It's not necessarily, oh, I have to grow that in myself, or I have to cultivate that in some way. It's more allowing it to happen because you already are that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the next question would be how do we cultivate that? How do we grow that? How do we be more of that? Because that is the part of us that, you know, that's happy, that doesn't doubt, that feels confident, that feels secure, that feels at peace, that feels at home, that that understands, that part of us that has a knowing. And I think that no matter who's listening to this, I think everyone's tasted that. Everyone's tasted that. How do we grow that and be less unsure of who we are and more connected to that?
That's a really big question, because I think, you know, everybody is at a different place in their adventure here. And so what might work for one person may not work for another person. But I can tell you a few things that I think are helpful to keep in mind. One thing is every time that you start hearing that voice in your head that criticizes you, or that says you're this and you should be that, to pause and say, oh, I hear you. Thank you for trying to protect me. Let's just relax and just see what happens, you know, approving of myself. Because those fears are really all about letting other things define who we are. So if we can quiet those voices and not stomp them down and not slam the door in their faces, but say, hello, I hear you. Thank you for trying to protect me. Let's just try this other new way of thinking. That then you kind of, you know, you're being kind to yourself. And being kind to yourself allows you to relax. And relaxing allows you to sink into that knowing of the self as the self. So that's an example of one way to do it. I also sometimes suggest to people that they make their mantra, I approve of myself. And not just to say that, not just when good things are happening or when they really do, they're kind of like, oh, you know, but also when they just feel like they screwed up, to say, even now, I approve of myself. And to see how that feels and what kind of little voices come yapping up in the back of the head saying, no, you just screwed up, you failed, you know.
Well, I know that thought's quite. But that thought's really hard to find when you're screwing up in your perspective. Like when you're hating yourself, approving of yourself, inside hating of yourself is a quantum leap. But
what I've found is that even just being able to say it, though, even if you don't believe it, at the very beginning, just even being willing to even consider saying it without believing it, that can have some power too.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I use is Byron Katie's work. Do you know Byron Katie? Byron Katie is a woman that has she calls her work the work. So she had an experience of having a near-death experience, but in the physical. So she woke up dead. She spent 10 years in depression, and she felt so unworthy and so disgusted with herself. She didn't even want to sleep in a bed, so she slept on the floor. And she said one morning a cockroach crawled over her foot and it woke her up. And she was in this altered state of expansion. And she looked in the mirror and she didn't identify with the body. She identified with all but not the body. And she said she had this, I say she woke up dead. She had this same experience as NDEs people talk about, but in her physical body. And she understood that the suffering that she'd put herself through for 10 years was for one reason only, and that was because she was believing her stressful thoughts. And she knew in that moment that if she didn't believe her stressful thoughts, that suffering wouldn't exist. And I love her work. She calls it the work. It's 4 questions and a turnaround. So is it true? Can I absolutely know it's true? Who would I be without this thought? And what's the 4th question? I've gone blank. How do I feel when I believe this thought, and who would I be without this thought? And then turn it around. And I think that when you are believing your stressful thoughts, like I'm not good enough, and I hate my life, and I hate my job, and I hate myself, and all that sort of stuff, it's great to question it. Like, is it true? It's just
absolutely.
Is it true?
It's yeah. That's also it's kind of the same quantum leap as saying I approve of myself in my mind.
Yeah.
To be able to question that, you know, it's pretty hard to. It can be hard to make that leap, but it's worth being willing to try to make that leap.
Yeah.
You know, being willing and even saying, I don't know how to do this, but I'm willing, is enormous. It opens that fear energy up and allows things to start moving energetically. Very important.
We were chatting before about people that have near-death experiences and how they always say, I don't want to come back, I want to stay. What would you say to people that aren't depressed, but they understand who they are as a non-physical being, as an energetic being, as an infinite being, and they just want to go home, but their agreement or their contract or their life path is not finished yet? And yet they sort of think, I think a lot of people that watch near-death experiences and have this conversation might feel like that. I'm done, I want to go home, but they're not having near-death experiences where they're seeing it from that perspective of, actually, no, I don't want to go home, there are other things I want to do. What would you say to people like that?
I guess I would, sometimes I have to say this to myself. Because I know how good it is there.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's hard to remember how good it is here. But we for one thing, here is there.
Yes. Okay.
There is no here and there.
Good to be reminded of that.
So, right.
Yeah.
And then also, if we want to, if we want to work a little bit closer to the physical world mind, we can say, we can be over there anytime, and infinitely, forever and ever, for a long time, and it's so easy and it's so beautiful. But this life here is really exciting from the other side, and it's pretty quick. So dig in and enjoy it.
Dig in. Dig
really,
in.
You know, a lot of times, a lot of the spiritual messages seem to be deny the body and deny these emotions are bad emotions, and these things are not holy. And I don't think that's true. From my experience, everything is holy. It's here is there. We didn't come here just to experience all the happy things. We also came here to experience the difficult emotions, because we learn from those, and they enrich us in ways that really we can't get when we're out of body, when we are in our whole selves. If we could get those out there, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very, from that perspective, it's very exciting to participate in any kind of emotions and in any kind of situation. It's an adventure. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's hard to remember when we're in the middle of pain.
I just think that
Exactly.
that message cannot be spruiked enough, because you know, we need to be reminded We just need to be reminded that this is great. This is fantastic, and it's a miracle. And that longing to be somewhere else, like, this is what my guides say to me. It's, you know, a lot of people get caught up with other dimensions and extraterrestrial life, and maybe I should be there, and maybe I should be in the future or on another planet or in the past, or, you know, I've got to be anywhere but here. They say to me, this is how it is. It's like going to Rome on holiday and wishing that you were back home. Like, from home, you were so excited to go on this holiday. I want to go on this holiday, and I'm going to see the Colosseo, and I'm going to have pizza. It's going to be fantastic. And then getting there and then saying, I want to be back home in my bed, you know, watching television.
All I want to do is go out of my body. You get into the body. All I want to do is come out of the body.
It's
fun to go out of the body. Like, really? Maybe you should get in your body, because it's a kick. It can be really fun.
Exactly.
And that's not to say that, you know, getting out of the body or learning some of those things aren't valuable or fun, but the grass is not always greener. You're in a pretty good pasture right now. Take a look around.
I think if you're privy to this conversation, if you're experiencing this conversation, you know, I teach law of attraction, like has brought you here. Your vibration has brought you here to this conversation. And just like you and I, we needed to be reminded that this is a kicker. You know, where we are is really good. Remember that. And you have that exalted awareness and that expanded awareness available to you right now, right here, right now. And you don't have to have a near-death experience to remember that.
No.
Yeah, something I need to be reminded of, because I think to myself, I want to have a near-death experience like those guys, but I don't want to have to die to do it. You know, I don't want to be in a bomb blast.
I can't tell you how many times I hear that. I want the NDE without the ND part. But, you know, there's lots of ways to remember who we are. You don't need to do the ND part. You know, one thing a lot of people want the sort of flashy, spiritually transformative experience of an NDE, or I don't know, something that happens that changes their whole life in an instant. Well, when you have that, unless you have already done the work before you have that experience, you're going to have to do that work after that experience. It may not, what I'm saying is, it may not change your life the way you think it will. And it may not change your life that easily. In either case, you know, you can kind of start at the beginning and work your way through something and learn it from the bottom up. And then you get, by the time you get up to that peak experience, it may not feel like a peak, because you've worked your way up, and it may just be like, now I'm here. Well, you may have that peak experience, but then you may crash and have to work your way back up. Or you may find, oh, you know, I'm losing it and coming back up, and find that road really rocky, trying to master what you experienced in an instant. So what I'm saying is, a spiritually transformative experience is not always just magic. It can be very disruptive and very, very difficult afterward. It may not always be, but it can be. You know, be careful what you wish for, I guess is what I'm saying. And you don't have to have it that way. That may be, you know, really flashy, but it may not be the best way for you. You may be working your way along slowly, and you may be a lot farther along than you think you are. Just keep going. It's your path. It's your path, and your path is valuable for you. Their path is not valuable for you.
I know. I was watching a woman called Jane Smith, who had an NDE in 1952. So she's in her 80s now. And there's many YouTube videos of her online in her different ages. And she's led a really normal life, was a mum, raised 3 girls. And in 1952, she came out of this experience like a dream. She had it when she was giving birth, and she had too much anesthetist stuff, and she just popped out of her body and was over on the other side. No sort of car crash or anything, just... and then the doctor's like, oh my God, her heart stopped. We have to revive her during the giving birth process. And she came back pretty quickly in our time. And, hanging on to that knowledge where she had no one around her that understood what she went through for years, like 30 years before she spoke about it publicly, and still spending 20 or 30 years speaking about it publicly. It's amazing to sort of be armed with that knowledge and feel like nobody around you understands. But it didn't massively change her life,
right.
But it did give her that experience of knowing that when she does leave this physical existence, she goes on. And that,
and honestly, there's a lot of people out there who have NDEs who don't talk about it.
Yeah.
They don't make it into their life's work to talk about them.
Yeah.
That's okay. It didn't necessarily cause a huge revolution in their lives.
Yeah.
It may be part of their life. An evolution, one more step of an evolution. And it may not need to be front and center, and it may not need to be talked about by them. That's okay. I think a good thing to ask yourself when I want the NDE or without the ND part, or I want a really flashy, transformative experience, ask yourself why you think you want that.
Yeah.
What do you think it will give you that you don't already have?
That's a great question. That's an excellent question. Why? Because I know that, as you say, a lot of people don't speak about it, but more and more and more people are. And even looking on YouTube, looking at the numbers of people that are watching people's experiences and a life after death, there is a great thirst for the knowledge of who we are. Do you think that from broader perspective there is some reason that this information is much more out there? Do you think that there's a message with all these NDEs that Spirit is trying to give the human consciousness?
Well, when I ask my mob about this, what I'm given is that, people talk about the shift, and from what I've been given, it's not like this is going to happen at this instant. Mm-hmm. It's a shift that takes place over a long period of time, and everything is always shifting, but there are times when things sort of speed up and shift a little more quickly. We experience that in our daily lives. There's some days that, everything's happening at once. It's going fast. Yeah. Well, there's some, apparently, what I'm given is that there's some energies that are shifting very quickly that have to do with the actual organizing structure of this reality, of this physical reality. And as those shift, what is potentially available to us to experience in this reality is also shifting. So whereas it may have been 500 years ago, it may have been a very different reality, actually probably a little bit more magical kind of reality 500 years ago. And then maybe 100 years ago, science and reason, the age of reason, are kind of cracking the whip. And now we're kind of leaning back toward that magical reality, but in a new way, informed in a new way, and experiencing it in a new way. And that carries some new potential for possibly bringing into this reality a little bit more memory of who and what we are in order to explore a little bit differently in this adventure.
It seems to me like they want to remind us that we are vibrational beings, energetic beings, that we're not just physical beings, that we have potential to mold the energy, of our life. And I think that people's NDEs, well, they demonstrate that we are these vibrational beings, that not just a physical being, that there's more to us.
Yeah, absolutely. That I think that happens in a lot of different ways now, not just through NDEs, but yeah, NDEs are definitely, I would say, one way of reminding everybody of who they are and what they are. And really, it's a reminder to ourselves. I mean, we're all reminding ourselves. Or we're all, as someone said, walking each other home, you know. So a few of us have these experiences, and other people go, oh, wow. Oh, I remember who I am.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to go too much into your experience, because I know that you've been on Bob Olson's show, which is, what's his show called?
Afterlife TV.
Afterlife TV. So there's quite a few videos of Natalie with Bob talking about exactly what happened in her experience. So go over to Afterlife TV and watch those. Hi, Bob, if you're watching. And because you explain it really well, what happened to you. You were in these different environments, the blink environment, where you had the beings of light downloading information. I love the downloading, you know, it's like downloading. You know, the computer age is making all that, it's giving us a language and making
it is
like uploading, downloading, and then you had the rest environment, the healing environment, and what other environments did you have experience?
The rest environment and the healing environment and the jumping off point.
The jumping off point, is that where you jumped back into this experience?
Back into the body.
Oh, but the healing environment is the environment that I'm really interested in, because from that environment, you said that you had the ability of manifesting here on the physical dimension. So from that broader awareness, or that non-physical, it's not really a place, but vibrational frequency, let's call it that frequency. From that frequency, you had the ability of affecting the physical frequency, and that's where you and a guide and another apprentice guide were looking at your physical body that had been in the bomb blast, and looking at different ways to design the healing and the what's the word I'm looking for? The
injuries that I had.
Thank you. The injuries that you had. I'd like to know how that works, because I hang out with a lot of energetic healers that kind of know that place. They know that place when they go into that. Well, I know when I do it, when I go into that place, that you're hanging out in that frequency and that vibration, and from that vibration you have the ability to shift and change physical manifestation, both the physical body and the physical manifestation around you. Do you want to talk more about how that works, please?
If you hadn't said please, I wouldn't. That's cute. Well, I'm not sure I can talk about how it works. I mean, really, it's just intention, and it's just being able to tune yourself to a certain focus, what I'll call focus or frequency. Being able to tune yourself to that and hold it, or sink into it, and then with your intention, being, really, intention is, this will happen, or this is already. Yep. And with no doubts and no, well, how does this work, or how can that possibly be, or none of that. You just know that it's going to happen, and you just create it with your intention. And I can't even say that it's really thought, because it's thought that's already completed. And maybe that doesn't make sense either.
No, it does. It's like a knowing. It's like when you get up from the chair most people know they can. So you don't think about it. I don't have to think, I'm now going to move my leg and my arm and I'm going to get up off the chair. You just get up off the chair because you have a knowing that you can. Or
yes, that's perfect.
And you wouldn't say that was thought, but of course there is a thought. There is some thought that says, I'm getting up off the chair, but you're not really aware of that. Maybe. Or I'm digesting my food. Like, you're not thinking I'm digesting my food. You're just digesting your food.
Yeah, you don't have to put you don't have to put any effort into it. You just notice it, kind of.
Because that is the secret to manifesting in the physical, is the least effort that you put into it, the quicker, the more instant the manifestation. Because when you line up with that knowing, then manifestation happens. So when you're asking for something to happen, like, let's take me, pain in my neck. I've got this pain in my neck. I want the pain in my neck to go away. Please go away. Please go away. Please. Doesn't go away. Let me go in there and heal it intentionally. Let me go in there and have a look at the body, and because I could look inside the body and see the structure. Doesn't go away. So there is effort involved. Like, there's effort involved. And this is something, as a teacher of deliberate creation, people really struggle with understanding. You have to let go of the effort and tune into the knowing. Tune in, get that vibration of it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very hard thing to teach. I think maybe especially in our Western cultures, because we are taught from the very beginning that that everything takes effort, and hard work is good, and hard work will get you what you want. And so to say to somebody, okay, stop trying, stop pushing, stop dragging, stop pulling, just stop.
Yeah.
And imagine that you already have it.
Yeah.
They're like, well,
I don't have it.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Yeah.
And then if they can actually stop and pause and create it, and boom, they get it, then it freaks them out. And or they find all those voices that say they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not good enough. It shouldn't happen that easily. I didn't earn it.
Yeah.
I didn't, I have to earn what I get. You know, we have a lot of beliefs around effort and hard work and getting things for nothing that can get clean. It's actually, you know, manifesting is a great way to clean those beliefs out.
Tell me about it. Put yourself out there as a teacher of deliberate creation.
Yes, you will. You'll freak yourself out a few times, right?
Oh my God.
You know.
I know. So you're touching on those contrary beliefs that we have. So we want something, but we don't believe we can have it. A contrary belief. And you touched on that in the book too. Let me have a look. I wrote a question down about that. I think I just wrote down, how do we change those, you know, those limiting unconscious contrary beliefs? Those ones that say, life has to be hard. It should be hard to get what you want. And I don't deserve, or I'm not worthy. I mean, these are sort of ingrained into us through our society, through our religions, through our cultural awareness, through schools, through parenting. Yeah, be a good boy. If you're good, you'll get what you want, and don't do that. And so we kind of come up with that. So how do you change a contrary subconscious belief?
Well, I think we already talked about that a little bit earlier, you know.
Challenge it.
Challenge it. Find it first.
Yep.
You know, first you have to become aware of it, and then say, well, do I believe this? Why do I believe this? Do I want to keep believing this? No. You know, or hello, thank you for trying to protect me. Let's try it another way.
Yeah.
In other words, bring it along with you, you know. Yeah. Don't criticize yourself for having believed that. Just say, oh, well, I did believe that. Maybe there's another way to do this, and walk forward with that questioning and willingness to find another way. You know, there's lots of ways to bring those beliefs to the surface, which is, you know, a lot of times the first thing that you have to do in order to change those beliefs. But one of the ways that I do that is, say I wanted, I'm going to create $10,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I write down on a piece of paper $10,000. I now have $10,000. Somebody just gave me $10,000. I write whatever I want about this $10,000, and as I might double that. You know what? 20,000. What the heck? 20,000. Yeah. And as you do that, as you raise that number, it becomes more and more unbelievable. And you're going to hear those voices that say, that's never going to happen. You can't have that. Money doesn't grow on trees. You didn't earn that. Who's going to give you that? How is it going to happen? All those kinds of beliefs. And so that's one way to highlight where those limitations are, is to stretch your creation out so far that it really like brings all those beliefs that say no right to the surface. And then you can work with each of those. Yeah. That's one way to do it. I mean, really, you know, a lot of people want a shortcut. Well, how can I just go from here to there? You know, the instantaneous spiritual transformative experience. And, you know, maybe you'll get that, but most people are going to have to do a little work. Yeah. You got to show up and do the work.
Look, I actually love what you said before about why do you want that. I think that, you know, with the onset or the advent of The Secret and the expansion of law of attraction, of the awareness of law of attraction, that everyone's out there to manifest and get what they want because they know they can. But then maybe you're trying to manifest 10,000, 20,000, 20 million, unlimited. You know, maybe you're thinking, great, I'm going to manifest shitloads of money. And it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen. I think that your question before, like, why do you want that?
That's a very important question. And in creating.
Yeah, and tuning into why you want that, and then finding the frequency of that, because I want to feel free. I want to feel happy. I want to feel secure. I want to feel less worried. I want to stop worrying about money all the time. And in there lies the answer to the question. Like, stop worrying about money and the money will come, rather than keep on trying to manifest by thinking about it and visualizing it and doing, you know, boards. What do they call those boards? Manifestation boards or vision boards, or and ask the why, and when you find the answer, be the answer. So feel free, feel secure. Yeah.
And if you don't know how to do that, a lot of times, again, I say to people, say to yourself, I'm willing to be that. I don't know how to let go of this stress. I don't know how to feel free inside, but I'm willing to feel that. I'm willing to be shown how to do that.
I'm willing. I'm ready, willing, and able. So that's a much better affirmation than I'm rich.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I'm rich to someone who feels poor feels like a lie.
Yeah.
But I'm willing.
I'm willing to accept a richer lifestyle. I'm willing to accept money from the universe. Not, you know, we think that things come from other people. Everything that you accept comes from your own whole self. Yeah. So how could you feel unworthy or guilty or something about accepting a gift from yourself to yourself? It's all good, you know.
I like that. That's a great visualization, that no one's giving it to me, I'm giving it to me. So maybe visualize yourself in your human form giving you a gift, the gift of abundance, or the gift of freedom. I really believe that money is tied up with freedom. And
for many people it is,
the feeling of I am able to be and do and have anything I want anytime I want, like that feeling of freedom, or safety. Maybe safety. Having money means I'm safe and I'm secure, and those feelings are available without the manifestation of the thing.
Yeah, that goes back to that sort of definition of the self, that something outside of myself makes me feel safe. Something outside of myself makes me feel free. Something outside of myself makes me feel XYZ.
Yeah.
Instead of finding that place within yourself, the thinker thinking the thoughts,
Yeah.
the being that is perpetually, eternally, infinitely safe, happy, free, and joyful, and beaming that out instead of allowing what's around you to
give it to you.
Give it to you.
Yeah, push it out instead of
the other way around. Yeah,
absolutely. Because that's what NDEs, I believe, that's what most NDEs do, is they establish that you are already all the things that you say you want. You are that. You are free. You are infinite. You are safe. You are secure.
Yeah.
And I think that is really the message of most NDEs. Not you need to have this amazing experience to feel it, but it's available inside you. Find it.
You already are that.
You already are. Find it, feel it.
Absolutely.
Make love to it, get intimate with it, roll around in the mud with it.
Yeah. Remember who you are. You don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to acquire it. And you don't have to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
You just remember that you already are it.
Yeah, remember it. I really love the visual of seeing yourself give it to yourself, like the gift of remembrance. That's a beautiful visual. Thank you for that one.
Good.
I like that. Visuals are good. Visuals are good. Oh, too good. Lovely. I'm loving this conversation. So before you had your NDE, Natalie, you were very spiritually aware of your whole self, broader perspective, and your mob, your spiritual guides.
Yeah. Love that word.
When did you become aware of that? Were you like that as a child, weren't you? Quite.
Yeah, I don't remember a time when I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. I remember a time where I wasn't aware of it, but at the same time, when I learnt about it, when it unfolded, it was like a recognition that it had always been there.
Yeah.
But I just called it something different. I used to call the voices in my head my common sense instead of my guides. And
well, people still talk about, I don't know, I don't believe in that psychic stuff, but I just follow my gut.
Yeah.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the same thing.
Yeah. And I used to call my visions my imagination.
Yeah.
And because I could look inside people's bodies and I was massaging them, and I just thought, well, I have a knowing of what the inside of the body looks like because I'd studied it, so I'm just imagining it. And yet when I studied psychic awareness, I realized that these labels, my common sense and my imagination, was actually my guidance and my visions. How did having this experience change you after the bomb blast in 2007, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. How did it change me?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Maybe you should ask my partner. Tom maybe could tell you.
Hey, Tom!
I think that maybe it changed, it gave me a little bit more confidence in my abilities, maybe. Willingness to talk about them. That I maybe kept them a little quieter before, and maybe kind of thought, well, this is really interesting, and spent some time with things and some effort in learning how to turn those senses on and off and control them a little better. Yeah. But afterward, I felt like I remembered how to do all that stuff. I didn't have to put quite so much, again, effort into what I know and what I do psychically. That and that kind of an awareness of who I am and what I am. Maybe that's made a little more effortless. And I think I'm happier. I mean, I've always kind of struggled with depression, and I think a lot of that was, why can't I just go home? I don't like it here. And now I really haven't experienced that kind of depression again.
Cool.
So that's been nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting this visual of you being kind of kicked up the butt and pushed outside and like, go out there, girl, go out there and do your thing. The reluctant guru.
Definitely reluctant.
You've got things to share, you've got wisdom to share, you've got a lot to give. Go out there and like that saying that to get you moving you have to put a bomb under you.
Yeah. Yeah. That was me. Literally.
Oh my God.
I think that I want to mention this because I get this a lot. I think that people have this idea that if you have an NDE, then your life, now you're perfect, and now your life is perfect, and now nothing is a struggle anymore. Everything is just kind of roses and la-di-da. And I kind of hinted at this when I talked about everyone wants the big flashy spiritual transformation, but an NDE or a big flashy spiritually transformative experience is not it doesn't just make you into this Buddha guru, I mean, you still have a personality that you have to negotiate. You still are in this physical world. You're still going to have challenges, and sometimes those challenges are going to be maybe even more challenging because now you've got more tools, so you're going to challenge yourself a little bit more. I don't know, and I've met some people who have been very confused by their NDE, people who are spiritually aware, but still a little bit confused, okay, now I had this NDE, now, so what? I mean, how does my life change because of that?
Yeah.
It can be confusing, and it can be a little bit of a challenge, and it doesn't just turn you into a Buddha or some wise person who knows it all. I often say something and then I say, but I could be wrong.
I'm just
because we could all be wrong.
Yeah.
We could all be, or another way of saying that is we're all right. So if you don't agree with something, that's okay. Yeah. You don't have to agree with everything that I say or everything that Karen says or anything that anybody says. Right. Think for yourself. But also you don't have to condemn what somebody else says. You may end up at some point realizing, oh my God, I said the same thing just in a completely different way that I couldn't, it just didn't make sense to me at the time. But now I see they were saying the same thing that I was saying, but we were saying it in a different way. I don't think that there has to be one message, or I don't think that there has to be one way of talking about here and there, or God, or Allah, or source, or a goddess, or whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. And it's okay to talk about it in all kinds of different ways because it's everything. It's big enough to handle every way we talk about it.
That's one of the reasons that I interview people, because I have a message and my guides kind of like that vision of being kicked up the bum. That was, for me as much as for you. And I'm a bit of a reluctant, I'm kind of like, I don't want people to look at me and say, you've got all the answers and sort of worship me. It's kind of like, can I just get other people to teach what I know, and then they won't look at me. That's my game, right? That's the game I've been playing. But at the same time, I've read a lot of books and listened to a lot of YouTubes, and I like hearing the message in many different ways. And I think that that's beautiful because it allows our brain to sort of sort of to look at it from every different perspective. Like you're looking at the same box, but you're looking at it from different perspectives, and each perspective gives you another view.
Yes, and it gives you a little bit more information and
Yeah.
a little bit different way of understanding who you are, what you are, and who you are in this world, and why in this world, and
Why?
it can give you a lot of different, I don't know.
One of the things you said last time when I interviewed you is that we talked about a shift in focus. I asked you the question, why do you think your NDE was just 1 minute in the body, the next minute on this in the blink environment, you know, surrounded by guides and having a complete knowing, no traveling through lights and white lights and tunnels and relatives and, you know, explanation. And you said to me, I don't know, but I think you do know. But anyway. And you said, I just understood that it's all about focus, either focused here or focused there, no movement, no tunnels, no passage in time, no passage in space. And you said, I don't know, maybe other people haven't had that experience. And I wanted to say to you, I've had that experience, but not as an NDE. I was reading a book about a guy whose brother had died in the war. He lived in India, and this man turned up at his house in a turban and said, your brother wants to speak to you. I'm going to take you tonight to meet your brother. And when he fell asleep in his dream, this turban man was there, and he took him into all these experiences in different dimensions, vibrational levels, and he allowed this man to write it all down. And he wrote this book called A Journey of Souls, or A Soul's Journey, one of those two. There's two books written by two different authors. And I read the book thinking, I want that to happen to me. I want that to happen to me. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It just didn't happen for like months, years, I don't know. And then one night it did happen. Like I've forgotten about it. And, you know, when I stopped efforting, when I stopped wanting it to happen, it happened. And I had this experience of being in another dimension and asking, and being in a class and asking the teacher, how do I move through dimensions? And she was talking about different lights and frequencies in my body, and then I shifted to another dimension, and I woke up and there was the turban man holding out a glass of liqueur. And as I looked past him, I saw Shirley MacLaine sitting at a table laden with goodies. And I said, can you drink when you're not physical? Because I knew I wasn't physical. I knew I was in a... And she said, yeah, sure. You don't have a body. You can't get drunk. And I said, oh, okay, cool. And so I had this experience having a chat with her and a few other people. And then I felt like an earthquake. And I grabbed the table and I looked at these people and I said, what's happening? And I found myself back in my room. And I could see through all the walls, and I could see that my daughter, who was about 8, 9, 10 at the time, waking up, and she was coming in to wake me up. And I knew that my body, or, you know, I don't know, but something called me back to that perspective, to that focus, because I was about to be woken up. And I didn't look down at my body. I couldn't see my body. I was inside and outside my body simultaneously. And I could see through all the walls, and I could see, you know, I could see for, like, everything was translucent. So I was having a non-physical perspective. And she was trying to wake me up, and I'm like, I don't want this experience to end. And then she left, and I thought, oh, I better get up and make her breakfast. So I got back in. But they said to me that exactly what you experience, you don't travel anywhere. It's just like a camera. You experience what you focus on. So you're either focused there or you're focused here. It's like a camera can only take a photograph where it's pointed. And so, yeah, I wanted to say that to you last time, but I didn't. That's the message they gave me through that experience, that it's all about focus. Are you focusing on the physical environment, or are you focusing on the non-physical environment? And depending where you put your focus, where your mind and your eyes, like when you shut your eyes, you're not focusing anymore on the physical environment, you can access different dimensions and frequencies. And
we actually do it all the time without paying any attention to it. You know, when we're driving home from work and we get all the way home and we go, oh my, I didn't remember a single thing about that drive.
I don't know who drives my car.
Because you were focused somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you were bilocated.
Yeah.
You know, your focus was completely somewhere else, but enough of your awareness was left in your body to drive safely home.
Yeah.
But we do that all the time. We just don't think about it as bilocation, or we don't think about it as focus. But if you start to pay attention to that, then you also begin to master being in control of your own focus and attention.
Yeah.
And as you do that, then you can begin to explore anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Infinite.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of manifesting as well, is that, you know, are you focused on the lack of it, or are you focused on the having of it? Tune up that focus.
Yeah, exactly.
Tune up that focus, get focused. And I think the practice of meditation that helps you tune up that focus.
Yeah, definitely.
To hone your focus in the direction.
And to then hold that focus as well. To be able to choose where you put your focus and then to hold that focus.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of my biggest problems, is my focus is all over the place all the time. I'm multitasking all the time, thinking of this, thinking of that, thinking of this. Mind you, in this conversation it's been very honed, but is to sort of stop spreading it out and bring it into a more focused. Yeah, I could use more practice in that too.
Yeah, you and me both.
But that's why we're here, right? I think that's one of the major lessons in having a physical experience, is to have this diversity at our fingertips, and then so being given all this stuff to play with, and then saying, you know, pick one and focus on it. But there's just so much stuff to play with. How do I pick one? It's like, well, what do you want? Do you want, you know, a little bit of everything, or do you want a lot of something? You know, like, yeah. What would you say about that?
Well, I think as non-physical beings, we already understand focus. I mean, it's kind of just in the nature of the whole being, I think. Bringing it into a physical body, though, yeah, I think probably some people that is, some beings that's very, very interesting to spend their time here really practicing that focus and bringing it into a physical reality, into a form, which would be quite different than just experiencing it in the non-physical. Yeah. I don't know that I would say that it's what we're all doing. I mean, I think everybody's doing different things, but it's definitely a fun thing to play with. It's definitely a fun toy, and it's a very effective way to experience ourselves as infinite. Because once you learn about focus and learn to control your focus and then learn to hold your focus, you realize you can, as a consciousness, as an awareness, you can go anywhere, anytime. Yeah. There is no anywhere or anytime. It's outside of time and space too. So really anywhere and anytime.
Life is a journey of infinite possibilities. Yeah.
It's an adventure.
It's an adventure. Oh, Natalie, it's so beautiful to talk with you again. You've got so much to share. And I know you're really busy, because I know you do, because Bob was giving you a big rave about your sessions. So I know you're really busy. I was going to say, you know, what do you do? Would you like to talk about what you do in your sessions, or up to you? Or are you too busy, you can't take on more people?
Well, I've got a pretty long waiting list. My waiting list is already out to October and maybe November of this year. But with my readings, really, you know, people say, well, do you do mediumship or do you do psychic? And I say yes. I mean, I just do what I do. What I do before a session is I center myself, and I ask all my mob, all my people to help me with the most true, accurate, relevant, and useful information for this client that I'm reading for right now. Yeah. And then I just let go. And whatever comes through, I trust that it is the most true, accurate, relevant, and useful for that person at that time. So it may be somebody from the other side. It may be information about their daily life. It may be information about why, as a being, they chose to come into this personality. It could be anything.
Do you talk about past lives, or I won't call them past,
sometimes,
other lives, because I know they're all happening.
Sometimes, yeah.
If they're relevant. Yeah, I suppose, as you said, whatever's relevant. So people come to you with their specific, questions. Maybe they want to contact someone on the other side. Maybe they want to know the meaning of life. Maybe they want to heal something.
Well, the way I do it, I ask people to spend a little bit of time before the session just on their own, thinking about what topics or what questions they have, and maybe even writing them down. And they don't need to give me those beforehand. I don't want to know about them beforehand. But it helps. What I found is that it helps to focus everyone's energy. If you think about those a little bit. Again, intention, right? They're setting their intention that they'll get the answers to things that they really want to know. And so I asked people to do that. And then the way I do a session is if it's a phone session, I don't do in-person sessions. I only do phone or email, or somebody can email me their questions, and then I will record my voice without them being there. Anyway, I have people say their full name out loud 3 times, and that's sort of just my gateway in to an energy signature and to that information that they're seeking. And then there's a little silence while I kind of tune in and sort out what I'm getting. Then I just start talking. And sometimes I talk for 5 minutes and then ask them for their questions. Other times I'll go on there's a lot of information there. Sometimes I'll go on for half an hour before I ask for their questions. But that's basically how I do this session. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for having a talk with us today.
Thank you, Carmen. It's been a pleasure.
It's been beautiful. And hopefully we can do a few more sometime.
Sure. I'd love to.
Put you on the spot. Because I know you're a busy gal. Me too. Yeah, I'm a busy gal too.
It's fun chatting with you.
Thanks again. I'm going to sign off. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just bad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.